can scare off a furious bear? What's the short, thin mako shark dangerous for? Why isn't it worth messing with a bison? How can you win round the wolf? Watch this episode. Today, I'll show you the most frightening encounters with wild animals. And we'll start with a short but very scary story that happened to a tourist who stayed overnight in the forest. The man slept in a special tent and did not think about anything bad when suddenly, in the morning, he was awakened by someone gigantic with long claws and very, very angry. It was a wild bear who clearly did not like the uninvited guest in his home lawn. Everything could have ended extremely sadly if it weren't for the only right decision the man took. The man began to growl at the pin-toed creature in response, doing it with all his might and at maximum volume. The animal, hearing the unfamiliar sounds, was frightened and backed out. No matter how you may look at it, you don't want to get into a battle with someone unknown and even make such sounds. In fact, bears are always frightened by unfamiliar sounds. In the following story, for example, a bear jumped right at a biker and barely had time to claw him. But then another man, behind a neighboring motorcycle, intervened. He started to make as much noise as possible with his vehicle and instantly drove the bear out of his sight. In general, encounters with bears in the forest are not so rare. The following video, for example, is the same. Again, a man, again, a forest, and again, an angry bear. But this time there was no aggression on the part of the animal. Mansoor, the name of this handsome boy, took a special interest in the ladder on which the man stood. The man's task was to hang a festive ball on the tree, but the bear seemed to be against it. It tried to climb up with the man, to chew on the branch, or pull the ladder out from under the man. According to the man's comments, none of this worked out for Mansoor, and slightly saddened, he soon went about his business. Leave a like if, in addition to the behavior of the animal, you were also greatly surprised by the calmness of the man who was next to him. No matter how you may look at it, there was a huge predatory creature in front of him. And here's another story with a man who was literally on the brink of something very scary. Even though the man was sitting in his car, a wild rhinoceros came out to meet him. Rhinos are some of the largest yet aggressive animals on Earth. The rhinoceros gained its recognizability because of the horn growing on the top of its nose. While the horn has made him famous, it's also done him a bad turn that's caused all rhino species to be on the verge of extinction. But let's not be sad. Let's get back to our video. It shows the animal trying to frighten a man several times. Apparently, it did not realize that he was in the car and he wasn't worried about its condition. The rhinoceros saw a whole organism in front of its eyes that needed to be chased away from its territory. Although this plan did not succeed, the rhino definitely upset the man's nerves and demonstrated its strength and dominance once again. The driver's behavior is also worth noting. He understood that in this case, the animal is simply fighting for its home. If you start growling in response or, honking, it can only sow doubts in the rhino's head. The animal will think it's being attacked and will attack back. For this reason, the man continued to be quiet as a lamb. It wasn't long before it paid off. Mako shark. This is the name of the next heroine of our episode, and as you already understand, it lives underwater. Two friends went on a trip to fish and at the same time to dive. But what none of them could have expected was an encounter with a Mako shark. It crept up unnoticed and almost bit a man. Most likely the creature just wanted to scare off the diver, let him know that it was better to get out of its territory. If some of you think that the Mako shark was completely harmless, and in general it's not capable of anything, know that that's not true. Humans have encountered the fastest sharks in existence. During one of the experiments, it was found that they can accelerate to an unthinkable speed of 68 miles per hour in just a few seconds. And it would be okay if the shark was tiny. It would still understand such possibilities. But after all, the Mako shark can grow to more than 13 feet in length. As for speed, it's achieved thanks to the special skin of the shark. In all other sharks, it's covered with small and immobile serrations. Ours is quite flexible and can bend 40 degrees. Thanks to this, the body of the Mako shark becomes much more streamlined. This means that the predator has additional speed. It's said that when this monster goes for prey, it can overcome a distance of several thousand miles. Even a sudden change in temperature will not be a problem for the Mako. Toothy fish maintains a constant body temperature due to the work of muscles and a developed network of blood vessels. Thanks to this, the shark is 39 to 41 degrees Fahrenheit warmer than the surrounding water. Why does it need this feature? Well, first of all, to survive, and secondly, so that it can swim wherever it wants and hunt anything it wants. Turtles, birds, fish, anything will do for a hearty meal, including any other shark. You heard me. Mako sharks can also hunt their own kind. Why? Even if the attack fails, they can always get away from the enemy, but the need to do so is rare. It's believed that this shark has a very powerful bite, allowing you to gnaw off your opponent's pieces of flesh. Now that you know all this, a diver's encounter with a Mako shark doesn't seem so simple and harmless, does it? Silence. Just this. Don't think now that saving yourself from dangerous creatures has to be done somewhere on land. At least there are no less than other creepy creatures in the jungle, an encounter with which you wouldn't wish even your worst enemy. Personally, I would confidently include the gorilla. This huge ape, already by its mere appearance, drives everyone around in fear. Look at how a group of people behaved when they met just one ape. And yes, going forward, they behaved perfectly. If some of you think that because there's only one gorilla and many people, tourists are allowed to do whatever they want, know that this is absolutely not true. First of all, one adult gorilla is more than enough to unwind an entire group of people. Secondly, gorillas are incredibly territorial animals that don't tolerate uninvited guests. Not only do they meet people regularly, but it all happens without their will. Of course, they're going to be angry. Besides, gorillas tend to live in groups, not too large, but at least 5 individuals in them. The maximum number of gorillas in one group is 30. Such a family consists of one leader, several females, and their common cubs. They eat vegetative food, although they are not squeamish about animal food. By the way, they need powerful jaws, not for fighting, but primarily for chewing leaves. No matter how you look at it, it would be difficult to cope with pounds of greenery every day without strong chewing muscles. And in general, the peaceful attitude of gorillas is not only visible in the fact that they use their jaws primarily for chewing grass. According to scientists, these primates are also quite peaceful. They wander around the jungle, make lodges, and collect grass. If there are fights in groups, it's only between males, and that's when they don't share anything. Otherwise, as long as there are no impudent strangers in their territory, gorillas do not touch anyone. What can't be said about snakes? These crawling monsters are always sticking their long noses into the affairs of others and claiming even what does not originally belong to them. In this video, for example, a python crawled towards people. Naturally, no one was going to crush this living creature, no matter how you would look at it, but the python itself did not appreciate this goodwill gesture. He continued to try to climb right into the car to people, apparently to make friends with them, but it turned out to be exactly the opposite. Such instance of the python only scared people away from it, and they eventually left without it. Speaking of pythons, did you know that the longest snake in the world is the reticulated python, not the anaconda? This giant grows to at least 23 feet in length and weighs over 150 pounds. The reticulated python lives in rainforests, sparse forests, and on mountain slopes. It's mainly terrestrial, but it's good at climbing trees. It's also said to be an excellent swimmer, although this is not surprising. Any giant snake prefers to swim in water at least periodically. This way, snakes spend less energy and at the same time move to the places they need to go. Keep distance. That's probably what this tiny shark said as it swam past a diver. The young predator warned the man not to stop her and her family from swimming in peace. But the diver naturally didn't get the hint. Fortunately, he didn't pay for it with anything but a fright. Leave a like if you too were frightened by this sudden appearance of a shark. Speaking of sudden appearances, the man in the following video was paragliding down and picking out the perfect spot for himself. As soon as it was determined, he started to lose altitude rapidly, and only at the last moment he noticed that some guests were heading towards him. As it turned out, in a few seconds, they were kangaroos, young ones, but already very confident individuals who did not like the fact that the man landed directly to their home. With their agile and quick attack, they immediately made the man realize that he'd better get out of there as soon as possible. Otherwise, they'll run for reinforcements, for big relatives, and the battle will start. I've seen such fights on the internet, and I think the man with the paraglide has seen them too. There's not much good in them. By the way, do you know why in all such videos these creatures look so pumped up? Maybe they have a secret gym? Actually, no, there's no such thing as a kangaroo gym, but there is a theory that kangaroos spend their entire lives jumping and as a result build up their muscles that way. This sounds much more logical than the first version, but again, it misses the point. The fact is that kangaroos do not use muscles for jumping, but tendons. And in general, the animal tenses up only at the start, after which it moves by inertia without exerting much effort. Moreover, large forms are noticeable only only in males. Females are not distinguished by any muscles, although they lead the same way of life. So what's the secret? In fact, the answer lies in the history of these animals. Kangaroos live in herds. Males have to fight for females because only the dominant male in the herd has the right to mate. Thus, only the strongest gets the harem, and as a result, the opportunity to continue the line. Physical strength is musculature, and musculature is evolution. So it turns out that kangaroos have amazing muscles by nature. This gift came to them as they evolved and set their family rules. Here's another strong creature from birth, by the way. This is probably the only alligator video I found cute. Usually these toothy creatures only cause fear and rejection, but in this story it was a little different. People noticed a young predator in the United States and decided to play a little prank by taking out a laser pointer and playing with the alligator. The alligator, in its turn, gladly accepted the rules of the game and began to try hard to catch the mark. As you can see, the alligator didn't succeed, but I will definitely leave a like for such a brave and diligent attempt. And here's someone I'd also like to recognize for being brave. That's the guide in the following video. The men went on a safari where they really wanted to see wild elephants. Luckily for them, the dream came true almost within the first hour of the trip. At first, the elephants ran across the road somewhere in the distance, and this amused the tourists, but later when another elephant almost crashed into the car, all the people became uncomfortable. Everyone except the head guide, who managed to chase the giant away with a single kick to the hood. I don't know how this works. However, I feel like all experienced guides are some kind of wizards who know something the rest of us don't. Just how else to explain the fact that a man chased away a huge and wild elephant just like that, in one easy move? You know, I think the very same wizard guide was sorely missed by the people in the following video. They went out into the wilderness in several cars at once and met a female tiger. It seems that nothing terrible can happen. The tigress sees a lot of people and is afraid to attack them, but this cat doesn't even have to do anything. Its slow steps alone are enough to frighten people to the point of trembling. It's amazing to watch how just one feral cat can stump and shock people in several cars. What's the big deal about one wild bison and just two grown men? The author of the video noticed his friend standing next to the bison and stroking its head. The man thought that he would like to experience the same unforgettable emotions and came closer to the animal, only the bison itself apparently was not ready for such an arrangement. The animal obviously liked the second man less, and it immediately pushed him away. It was amazing how the bison had made only one weak push by his standards, and the man had already flown several feet away. In general, I see that people often play with wild animals, thinking that they will not do anything to them. I have no idea where such self-confidence comes from. To tell the truth, sometimes it pays off. In this story, for example, a man encountered a wild wolf, and instead of carefully and leisurely retreating and getting away safely, he started parodying the animal, repeating its howls. I don't believe I'm saying this, but the man did it very well. It's quite likely that this is the reason why the wolf did not dare to attack. Keep watching. Much more insane animal encounters captured on camera are awaiting you. We start with this interesting shot I received from my subscriber. He assures it was taken from the surveillance camera that captured a bear encounter. The man was apparently in a hurry and by accident bumped into a dumpster. That awoke a bear sleeping inside. The animal went out to look at what was going on. When the man noticed the animal, he lost his tongue. Soon after that, he broke into a run with all his might. For sure, I would not like to find myself in this place. That's swell to encounter such a huge bear. Well, I don't know which meeting is the most insane. That one between the man and bear, or this one between another man, his loyal dog, and a huge moose. The host went for a walk with his four-legged friend. They approached their car and noticed a giant moose running toward them at full speed. The man tried to dodge the attack, whereas the dog started to defend himself and show aggression. That's surprising how much confidence the small creature had. The dog barked at the animal and gained time they needed at that moment. It was enough for him and his host to come back home safe and sound. Raccoons are incredibly nice animals that seem to be completely harmless and pretty. Is it true? Spoiler, no, that's not the case. For example, they can encroach on your territory and start rooting through a dumpster until they find something tasty. If you dare to bother them, the animals will be pleased to attack or frighten you. Imagine how surprised the man from this video was when somebody jumped out of the dumpster at night. Judging by everything, the raccoons are used to eating in the evening. One day, they may be looking for something in a dumpster whereas the following day they may visit their old acquaintance from a local snack bar to have enough for supper. What's not to like? If you think to yourself, why do I need to feed anybody? Don't they have enough food in nature? Just watch this video. You'll understand that the animals may not be in a mood to tolerate your ultimatums. The snake from this clip was waiting for a girl coming back. When the girl opened the car door, the crawler tried to coil her just around the neck. Despite a mistake in its calculations, the snake annoyed the girl a lot. Another one who can get on your nerves is the white bear. This polar giant is the main object of study for many scientists from all corners of the Earth. Another group of researchers arrived in the Arctic and started waiting for this beauty. Soon after that, it appeared on the horizon. However, that didn't calm down the group. The thing is that this animal approached closer and closer. As a result, the distance between the people and the animal became critical. Nobody from the expedition wanted to be attacked by the bear. What's interesting, they weren't worried for themselves, but for the giant's health. After all the people had arms to defend themselves, whereas there was only one bear. Fortunately, the bear turned aside from the way of the people, slipped down into the water, swam away to the neighboring iceberg, and made itself comfortable just to enjoy life. You must agree, white bears are very beautiful, right? However fine the polar bears were, the sea lions impressed me not less. They're also very graceful, beautiful, and kind. What's more, they're rather innocent, to the extent that people can tease them with fish. There again, when sea lions jump on board and find out that people cheat them, the animals will not beat around the bush and prefer to leave the liars. They have nothing to do there. The tourists from the following story decided to stay for a night in a tent near the sanctuary in Botswana. Since they came to the nature, it was also worth immersing themselves in the wildlife to the full as well. Except that they couldn't even think that in the morning, an incredible surprise in the face of two intruders would await them. Those were two lions licking the tent, collecting water from it. The tourists had to behave themselves as calm as possible, not attracting any attention. After all, if they had bothered the predators or, what's even worse, frightened them, their reaction could have been deadly for the people. Fortunately, everything worked out fine and nobody suffered. You know, I've never thought about that before. Anyway, work in the forest is something incredibly dangerous. It's not enough that a lot of small and dangerous creatures live there. What's more, there's a great quantity of branches around. The chances are that you stumble upon a bear decides to visit you there. A bear climbed the tree as if observing the territory and checking whether people do their job right. The men reacted instantaneously. They were shocked that the bear went that far. Fortunately, nobody suffered. The bear was possibly satisfied that day. The next video is dedicated to three creatures: the man, alligator, and fish. You know who of them was a predator. The alligator had to decide whom he'd rather have eaten for dinner. Was it a man, some more difficult but at the same time more solid prey, or fish? Whom do you think he chose? I was shocked at the moment when the alligator passed by the fish and continued its way towards the man. Don't worry, there will be no screamer or severe battle. The predator passed by several meters more, lay down on his stomach, and left the man safe and sound. Later on, the animal went back to the fish and ate it at one stroke. This situation happened to one of the islands where two girls were on vacation. They were going to take a boat they had rented. However, their travel was suspended by a curious guest. As you can see, I'm talking about this nicest monkey. It approached the girls, examined them and the boat, then it looked at what was inside and jumped aboard. Supposedly, the primate liked the transport, but it didn't want to travel in the company of the girls. Either the animal was busy at home or it didn't trust people. However, this unexpected meeting provided everybody with good feelings. I used to think those are only girls that are afraid of rats. It turns out that men are not less scared of meeting them. This man noticed this tailed friend at his home by accident and reacted as if it were not a small rat but a huge lion. It feels like the man frightened the poor animal by his reaction and made it to disappear. Maybe it was a special plan so that the rodent never finds its place at his home. In this case, it was clever. Whales are delightful creatures that surprise not only by their sizes, but smartness as well. Everybody who met them at least once told about how clever and kind they were. This video serves as an evidence to these rumors. It shows a giant animal swimming close to people, welcoming them and slightly swinging the boat. That happened during another outing. At the same time, the whale allowed them to caress its body and behaved utterly calm. There was such a feeling that the giants themselves liked meeting people. It turns out that whales can be met not only far away from the shore, but right in the port as well. By the mooring in Alaska, a man noticed some kind of strange movement on the water and began to peer into the depth. In a matter of seconds, a real whale appeared nobody expected to see there. It was a delightful spectacle. It seems to me that the whale from the previous video could have found itself off the coast to learn the local prices for a haircut. The thing is that only one master was working in the depth. It charged a lot. I'm talking about that underwater seal hairdresser that was pleased to process this diver's head. By the way, did you know that seals can regulate their temperature? Fat layers isolate their body, whereas blood circulation system diverges the blood flow to the limbs and outside surface. As a result, seals can go to the ice, not melting it. Their thick fur protects them against the cold and holds the water on the skin that's heated to the body temperature. They regulate the process by changing the sun position and activity level, moving to the humid places or shallow pools. The man from the next video decided to show off in front of his friends and prove that he could control a bison. Spoiler, he didn't manage to do that. He was about to be seriously injured instead. Fortunately for the adventurist, everything worked out fine. It's interesting what the man was thinking about. Did he really think that the bison would get frightened and run away from the road? This is near to delirium. I fail to understand what happened in the next video. Was it either a duck meeting or something else? Dozens or even hundreds of ducks gathered together and were running along the way. It's quite possible that they wanted to cross the road, but people and cars prevented them from doing so. That's why the jam formed. According to what the author of the clip told, everything was solved and the ducks calmly continued their way. Anyway, it's better to talk about harmless ducks when they're crossing the way. You're sure to notice them and everything will be right. But if a snake comes into play, the situation will instantaneously change for the worse. In this video, a man shot the crawler, confidently and quietly climbing the house roof. What for? Only the snake itself knows. Either the crawler wanted to look at the beautiful forest from above or find a tasty and appetizing prey. Sea lions are striking creatures. They can do such things that truly defy imagination. For example, the sea lion got out of the sea and climbed a stone stair. It plunged into the pool, swam along with a flare, and lay down on the deck chair. Then the animal displaced a man, saying it was its turn, and started to sunbathe on the sun. Who else can do anything similar? Here's a larger sea lion heading out for its job. Where exactly it was running to and what it was going to do, I don't know. With regard to the previous video, it can be anything. You can write your versions in the comments. It'll be interesting to read them. You know, I admire the nature and the animal world in particular. The alligator can be both aggressive and dangerous at the same time. The alligator can be both aggressive and dangerous, and at the same time, the animal can walk along the field next to ducks and people, not even touching anybody. How's that possible? After all, that's a dangerous predator. I may not understand anything fully. The man from the following video was sitting in his room and working at his computer. There were complaints about his productivity. That's why the direction was forced to send their main agent to find him to find out the reason. Talking about a squirrel that got into the worker's flat to assess his advances. What was next? See for yourself. I think the squirrel at least will have something to say about the man's lack of stress resistance. That's all, guys. Have you ever seen bears in person? Let me know in the comments. Thank you for watching, and see you later.